My guest at this time is legendary pro wrestling manager and theme song artist. He is also known as the Mouth of the South. It's WWE Hall of Famer Jimmy Hart. Jimmy, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
You know, Nikki, baby, let me tell you something. What a great introduction. I need to carry you with me on the road wherever I go just to introduce me.
Hey, if you pay me enough, I will actually do that, Jimmy. I would love to promote Jimmy Hart.
Your check's in the mail.
Thank you. Hey, I got to ask real fast. One of my writers want to know, do you have a preferred megaphone brand? Do you have one that you like more than other megaphone brands?
Well, you know what? This is pretty cool right here, which are hard to find, but I've had this for so many years. But, when I was with the Hart Foundation, I had the pink and black.
Sure.
If I was out with the Hulkster, I'd have the yellow, of course, yellow and red. But on this one, I just kind of Jimmy Hart, put the little name on it, Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. You know who brought me this megaphone one day from Japan?
I would love to know.
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon bought you this megaphone?
He bought this and brought it to me from Japan. He was over there, and I've had this for so many years. I've had 8 or 9 of them, of course, because we broke a few of them. But this is the one I had from him.
So Vince comes in and he's like, Jimmy, I saw this, and I needed you to have
This is going to be your new gimmick. I said, boss, can I paint it and fix it up? Do whatever you want to with it. Okay, thank you.
So was this the first megaphone you had in WWF then? Or?
This is one of the first. I've had so many. We used to have a big box in the back of the trucks, and we used to have 15 or 20 megaphones because we broke a lot of them.
Sure.
We'd have 15 or 20 Honky Tonk Man guitars, 15 or 20 of Mr. Fuji's canes, so we'd always go to the box and get them out. And then if I had to use them that night when I got them back home, I had them airbrushed.
Okay, hey, it looks great. It does not look like it is vintage. It looks fairly new, actually. It's beautiful. Hey, before we get to some other stuff, we're here at the 3 Square Food Bank. And now, you are infamously one of the nicest guys in professional wrestling. I've heard stories about you setting up chairs at indie shows, breaking down the ring. What's it like for you to be here giving back even further, getting to spend time with these kids and these superstars today?
Well, it really hits home. I was raised by a single parent, my mother, and we really didn't have a lot growing up. I had to, after football practice, believe it or not, I played football. I was a wingback at Treadwell High School, 7th in the city in pass receiving. You can check it up. A lot of people say if Jimmy Hart's lips are moving, he's lying, but I'm telling the truth. You can look at it, Treadwell High School. But I used to work after I got through practice at Pick Pack Grocery Store, 35 cents an hour back then. I'm telling my age. But I was able to buy my school clothes with it. But my mother, she worked 2 jobs, and so a lot of times we always had food, but sometimes it might be peanut butter and jelly sandwiches instead of something really, really cool to eat. But we survived, we made it, and so when I was talking to the people here of this great complex, it kind of hit home for me about all the people out there that are kind of going hungry. My friend Maurice that works here, he said that 6 out of every 7 people go hungry.
Yeah.
Here in Nevada, each and every day. So anything we can do to help. And can you believe the WWE, we gave them a $10,000 check?
That's
Is
amazing.
That great?
It's great. And, it's wonderful, like seeing you, and you see how the kids relate to Titus and Bianca, and, it really touches. I mean, these are the kinds of experiences where you're going to get older and you're going to remember that day that you got to wrap fruit with some of your superstars.
Well, Titus does so many great things for all the community, especially in Tampa. But Bianca Belair, I mean, what a lovely lady she is. What a great champion. She really is. She's cool, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to take a step back here, Jimmy. I brought up a couple things. First of all, the theme music. You got into wrestling as a musician, correct? Like helping Jerry Lawler down in Memphis. Correct. What do you think of the current theme music in WWE? Are there any theme songs you really like at the moment that you think really capture the wrestler?
Well, I love them all. I think, first of all, they wouldn't be playing them if they wasn't really okayed by the big man, that.
Sure.
But I think the fans love them and everything else. Back in my era, we did Shawn Michaels' Sexy Boy, me and my partner. We had.
How was that? Were you in the room when Shawn laid down the infamous lyrics?
No, here's what happened.
Okay.
When they came to me and said, look, we need to do a theme song for Shawn going to the ring, so we let Sherry sing it. And so, about Sexy Boy. So then when she left, then Vince said, look, you need to get Shawn in the studio, put his voice on it. I said, Shawn, we got to put your voice on it. He goes, I can't sing. I said, I promise you, I'll make you sing, I promise. He said, we went in, we knocked it out about an hour time. I had to sing the backup going, Sexy Boy, because we didn't have girl singers on that particular track.
Is that you in his theme song?
It's me, and I had to triple it 3 times going, Sexy Boy. So I had to do that 3 or 4 times, and so that's me. But guess what? On Spotify, that song's up to date has had 10,200,000 plays.
Yeah, no kidding. It's an icon. I would have never guessed that was you doing a backup of 3 female chorus members.
And what about the Rougeau Brothers song? What about we don't like heavy metal, we don't like rock and roll, all we like to listen to is Barry Manilow? I couldn't say Led Zeppelin. People would go, yeah, we love Led Zeppelin, you know. But we had so much fun doing a lot of the themes, the American Dream Dusty Road song, and all the Honky Tonk Man's greatest hits, a Honka Honka Honky Love, Honky Dog Baby.
Man, Jimmy, classics. I don't want to go over time, but I'm going to pull a string here, all right? The Wimp. 1982.
Jerry Lawler.
Yes. But beyond just Jerry, there was this comedian fellow.
Andy Kaufman.
That you worked with.
Yes.
Some of the most iconic work in professional wrestling. I say this because without what you and Jerry and Andy did, I don't know that we would see the pop culture infusion that we see in pro wrestling today. Do you think that that's a fair statement?
Well, I don't like to put it in my words, but I'll go what you said. If you said that, then I'll go with it. But Jerry Lawler is the one who got me in professional wrestling. I love Jerry forever. Working with Andy Kaufman for over a year. You know, I managed him for over a year.
I know you did.
After every show, he wanted to go by Elvis's house, Graceland, and just look at the gate, which we did. His favorite wrestler was Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, so we talked about him all the time. But Andy was great. He stayed at my house some. We went on the road together. We ate at a lot of the restaurants together, and like I said, he was very unique, very different. He sure was.
Man, yeah. How did you meet Andy? When did you get introduced to him?
I was at Jerry Lawler's house one night when Bill Apter called from New York and said, there's a comedian here named Andy Kaufman who's on a show called Taxi that he wants to get in professional wrestling.
From the infamous story where he's in the apartment with, I forget who he was living with. There was a woman he was living at the time, but he called Jerry. I didn't know you were in the room with Jerry.
Yeah, right. And so he came down, and we started using him on TV, and then after about a month, Jerry said, we're going to put you with Andy Kaufman. Jimmy managed him. And so Andy and I were together for over a year. We fought Jerry. We fought each other. We fought Jerry again. We tagged up, mixed tags, everything else. But what a great guy. He really was.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, I know we're going a little long on time here, but you know, when Vince McMahon Sr. turned down Andy Kaufman, that's why he wound up down in Memphis, right? That's very different than the approach that his son Vince McMahon Jr. would later take, where he was all in on the pop culture. I mean, obviously at WrestleMania 1. Did Vince Jr. ever talk to you about your work with Andy Kaufman? Was that something that he was interested in?
You know what? He never mentioned anything about that. He knew what we were doing because Vince is the one that called me. Howard Finkel had called a guy named Hillbilly Jim, who in our territory was called Harley Davidson. So he called me and said, look, WWE wants to talk to you about coming up there for a show called WrestleMania. I thought it was a rib at first, but finally Howard Finkel called me, and then Vince McMahon called me, and I said, feet don't fail me now, baby. So I went up to New York. It was on the first WrestleMania, but I loved it from every minute of it because I felt like Vince was so wide open on everything. You know, he's always changed with the times, you know.
Yeah.
And like I said, Vince has put food on everybody's table for many, many years. Trust me on that.
Yeah, I just wondered if he, you know, just seeing what direction he went, I didn't know what effect you and Andy and Jerry had on his mindset for the business, because I can't imagine that he saw what you guys were doing and wasn't affected by it, you know?
Well, he could have been, but, you know, later on, of course, you know, we had so many people like Mr. T come in and Billy Martin on the first WrestleMania, Liberace on the first WrestleMania.
That all came after the Andy stuff. Like, that's what I'm saying. Well, mostly, you know.
Right, and maybe that did have an effect on him, but I don't want to sit here and say it did because who knows what anybody's thinking anymore.
Hey, you'd know better than I. All right, last thing. There's a lot of talk about contract negotiations in wrestling right now. Legal Beagle, Jimmy Hart. You were right alongside one of the shrewdest negotiators known in pro wrestling, Hulk Hogan. What advice do you have for wrestlers right now? There are two companies. They're trying to get a better deal. What's your advice to wrestlers when it comes to negotiating a contract?
I think if you can get a job with any company, and that's what you really want to do, go for it. But look, be on time, be dependable. Whatever contract you sign, don't come back 3 weeks later, 3 months later and go, can I do this? Let whoever runs the company come to you and say, look, you know, you've really busted your you-know-what for us. We love you, and we're going to redo your contract and give you a raise. Because if they're the ones that say it, then they really mean it.
Yeah.
And they are going to put you on a rocket ship to make it work. But that's just for me. Whoever I've worked for, no matter who, whether it was Memphis Wrestling or WCW or WWF and now back to WWE again, I'm like a pimple on prom night. It's hard to get rid of me. You know, I've always tried to be colorful, respect the company, dress appropriate for it, and always say the right things. But I've been blessed. I've been with so many great talent. Can you imagine my career? I've had Hulk Hogan, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, the Honky Tonk Man, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Earthquake, Typhoon. I've had Jerry the King Lawler in Memphis, Austin Idol, Handsome Jimmy Valiant, Joe LeDuc, Killer Carl Croup, the Assassins, the Interns. Like I said, I've gone up there and had the wrestling man, Danny Davis. I've had, oh my gosh, I've had the Nasty Boys.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, Bret Hart is a single. I mean, I've been so blessed, and I'm probably leaving out somebody, or somebody will probably see this interview and go, Jimmy Hart left out so-and-so. But I've been so blessed to have so many people that have been so talented to be with, you know, Adrian Adonis, and been in so many great matches. You know, I always tell her, everybody always says, what's the favorite match you've been on? And it had to be WrestleMania 1, because if WrestleMania 1 had not been successful, then I wouldn't be standing here talking to you now.
Absolutely. Hey, Jimmy, I want to thank you so much for the time. It was really, really great getting to talk with you.
Nikki, baby, I love you, baby.
Woo! This is Wrestling Inc. and Jimmy Hart and Nicholas Thomas Hausman signing out. Thank you.